I have this question that I want to know. A lot of people talking about politics lately, and a lot of people talking about, which party is worse for the other party or whatever the case is, which party is worse for black people. And I want us to be a respectful conversation. And I know politics, a lot of people can get heated when it comes to politics. I'm going to make my stance clear. I'm going to say this right out the gate that I am affiliated with no political party. I'm not affiliated with the Democrats. I'm not affiliated with the Republicans. I think they're evil on both sides. You know, of course, there are going to be some stances or policies that I agree with when it comes to them, and then that I agree with when it comes to them. In my personal stance, I believe that black people, black Americans, foundation black Americans, we should just be automatically independent anyway, you know. And then when it comes to politics, we should only side with whatever is in or whoever is in our best interest at that time. Okay, that's my stance on it. I want to see if I can make this bigger like that. I don't know if I can. I'm still settings, layout, show layout. Oh, okay, hold on. Let me see. So I want to ask this question, and I want to get people's opinion on it. Who do people think are better? Who do people think are better between the Democrats and the Republicans? Do people think that, or for black people? Okay, I'm asking for black people, who's worse? Not better. Who's worse? Which party do you think does more damage to the community? Which party do you think is worse for the community? The Democratic Party or the Republican Party? And I'm specifically talking about Black America. Which party is worse for Black America? I want to have that conversation. So we have somebody on the panel. Um, you can go ahead.
Yes, so I think the Republican is worse for black people.
Hold on. Let me change the thing so everybody can see. Cause I want everybody to be able to see the prompt. Let me see some. Okay, go ahead. You think the Republicans are worse, and that's your opinion. Why do you think that? Why do you think the Republicans are worse?
Well, I think that because I know that the Republican Party is anti people of color, is anti women, is anti LGBT, and they don't fight for minorities. So then I don't expect them to fight for black people the way I would expect the Democratic Party.
Okay, okay. Now, just so we can be 100% clear, um, I'm specifically talking about black people. Of course, there are black women, there are black LGBT or whatever, but I'm talking about the black community as a collective. So, do you
Yeah, I
feel
mean,
like
but
now,
it's still part of the minority groups.
okay, I think that we would be better off if black people wouldn't like lump themselves in necessarily with these with everybody else. But let me ask you a question though, because that's your stance, and we can have a respectful dialogue about that. Do you feel like the Democratic Party does that? And I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just trying to, pick your brain, so to speak. Let me see.
You're saying, do I feel like the Democratic Party lumps them in together?
Yeah. Do you feel like the Democratic Party looks out for black people?
Yes, I would say to an extent.
Okay. Okay. What do you
I
mean
mean,
by that?
obviously, I think everyone should try to do better. Everyone can do better. But I do think that they do some things.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's your stance. Can you give an example before we move on to the next speaker? Because I want to be fair. This is an open dialogue. You know what I'm saying?
I'm,
I'm
I'm
not here
sorry, I
to
don't have
debate
an
anybody
example
on the
right
party. I just
now.
want to get
I
the
mean,
sense of it.
I
But
have an example.
everybody coming up, got to mute their mic because
Oh,
then we can't hear.
well, if she had an example, she can say one for me if she wants.
I mean, But you're the hold on. You said that you feel like they're better, so I'm asking you what is your example? Everybody got to mute. Everybody got to mute. Okay, that way we can have a conversation where nobody's like talking over somebody, so we can all have our chance to speak and land. So I mean, if you don't, if you just feel like they fight for minorities and stuff like that, then we can move on to the next speaker. But if you have an example, I would appreciate if you gave an example.
Right. So I don't have an example.
Okay. All right. So we'll just go on to the next speaker. So just so we know, we have one person, and you feel like the Democrats are better. Okay, and we can respect that opinion. Let's move on to, I think Larry was next, so we'll move on to Larry. What is your stance? Who's worse for black people? Which party? Larry. Okay, well, Larry might not be with us right now, so there,
I'm
Larry,
here.
there we go. Who's
Yeah,
worse for black
my
people?
mic. What's worse for black people? Okay, first of all, I am a citizen of the United States. I am not a citizen of America. Let's clear that part up. Okay.
Okay.
And as a citizen of the United States, I look at our political parties as being some of the biggest jokes because don't get me wrong, our process is one of the youngest processes on this planet. You know, we created the Democrats, the Republicans, and I like that I party now, you know, individual party, right? You like the individual party. You didn't mention them. I don't think
Well, these are the two.
anybody.
Here, Larry. These are the two main parties. These are when it comes down to elections. These are the two pretty damn near only factors. You know,
Yeah, I agree.
if we want to have a conversation about like the independents or the Green Party, that would kind of be a separate conversation. But I'm asking about the Black American community, which is worse between, or which party is worse for Black America between these two? Which party does more damage? Which party does more to benefit between these two?
I agree with both people are going to say Democrat, then another group's going to say Republicans. More so Republicans now, but in the beginning, it was the Democrats that hung us and lynched us and beat us and burned our homes up. And then, some reason after the 1950s, it became the Republicans became our worst nightmare. So I really can't give you an honest answer, brother.
Okay.
They
Okay.
both know good.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Somebody say they both equally bad. All right. We can respect that opinion. All right. Now, I just want people to understand. I know politics, people can get real passionate about politics, and we can respect other people's opinion and have a respectful dialogue. This is what the community needs, okay? For people to be able to sit down and voice their opinions without, cussing somebody out and shouting or this being an echo chamber. So, this is what I'm facilitating right now. So, now we're going to move on to the next speaker. So, we're going to have Goober. Goober, what is your opinion?
So I feel as though for black people like myself, it's the Democratic Party. I do agree that both parties have their flaws, but as far as unity, equality, rights for special needs people,
Mhm.
all of those things is usually promoted and is usually enforced by the Democratic Party. Now, when you said what was an example of the Democratic Party, and you was asking her that they
I
give
don't know why
what
you hold on. I'm sorry. Somebody keeps you keep trying to come up. I keep letting you up. It's just not connecting you. I don't know why. You keep every time you do it, you keep trying to come up, and I keep hitting the accept button, but it's just not letting you up. Keep going, Goober. Didn't mean to
okay.
interrupt. Keep going.
So I look at both parties, right? And I
Hmm.
look at the fact that in the Republican Party, there is not one person of color that can ever make it to vice president or president. At least in
Okay.
the Democratic Party, they give us an opportunity. Now, whether they at least giving us the opportunity to have a seat at the top of the table. You cannot tell me that in America that there is nobody on the Republican side that is qualified to be president except for an old white man. You can't tell me that. I saw some candidates before they even elected Trump. Women who I thought were great. Other people that were great. But the problem is the Republican Party only looks at that position as a position of an old white man. And that is why they vote against when the Democrats put up Barack Obama and when the Democrats put up Kamala, because they only see it as a position in their mindset that belongs to a white man and an older white man. They don't give anybody else any kind of credentials or any kind of opportunities, and that's a problem because there's so much diversity in America. The fact that you're still stuck on the fact that the only representative for America that is appropriate or acceptable is an old white man says a lot about their party. There's no diversity at
Okay.
the upper levels.
Okay. Everybody coming up got to mute their mic. Okay. Just mute automatically as you're coming up. Okay.
And
Um.
that's a problem because America is such a melting pot. And the fact that they're still stuck on it says a lot about them. And also, and this is the last thing, and I'll land my plane. When you look at who the I don't know how you got to say it, the triple K or whatever. When you look at who they march for, and when you look at who they support openly, it's
Mhm,
not the Democratic Party. Now
mhm,
I know they say back in the day it was the Democratic Party that pushed that agenda, but
mhm.
openly right now, when you look at them marching and doing that stuff, it is not for the Democratic Party. They are openly marching for the Republican Party, and there's a reason for it.
Okay.
They feel accepted there. They don't feel accepted on the Democratic side. But okay, thank you for. I appreciate you letting me have opportunity to talk.
No, yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course, of course. And I appreciate you sharing your opinion.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
So we have that. Um, and I just want to give everybody's opinion before we like really start the dialogue. In order for us to start a respectful and informative conversation, everybody at least has to get their point across, their stance, because we just don't want to make assumptions about what somebody believes. So let's hear everybody out first. So and I have some things to say, but I'll let everybody get their point across first. So we'll get to Mike. Let me see. Yeah, Mike, you got it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, brother.
So I guess going back to what Larry and Goober said, I guess it depends on your periodic of time in the United States. So as of right now, I think it's equally split. But I've also seen right now a lot of black folk go over to the Republican side in lieu of feeling abandoned or at least neglected by the Democratic side through various different things. Like, they feel like that they're being fed lies and stuff like that. But I'd have to agree with Goober that on a, optically, the Democratic Party has given people of minority people a much, you know, piece of the pie, I guess, of holding some of the highest seats in the political arena in America, like Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, people in Congress, whereas Republicans are predominantly white. However, I
Well,
do
I mean,
think you're going to see I think you're going to see a shift in minorities going to the Republican side in the next few years.
yeah. Now, I want to make this abundantly clear because I'm not debating anybody right now. This is just a conversation. But I just want us to stay focused on black people because when we say words like minorities, then we're including Hispanics, then we're including Asians, then we're including all of these other non-black people. You know what I'm saying? So when we all like, "Oh yeah, they support minorities." I'm trying to be very specific about black America. You know,
Okay,
so the word minority, it can get or people of color, stuff like that can get very vague. It's too broad for this topic right here. All right.
okay,
So let's
perfect.
go
All right,
forward
my
just so
my
that
fault. Then I will reiterate I'll reiterate my take that like Gruber said, the Democratic Party has given Black Americans, a chance to sit at the highest table, like she said. You've seen that happen with Republicans. What's his name? He's a doctor. Um, what's his name? He was running for president. He was in the Congress. He was
Carson,
in the
Ben
running,
Carson.
but I forget his name.
Ben Carson.
Ben Carson. There you go. Ben Carson. He got up the ladder, but he didn't take the seat. So, but like I said before, I do think you're going to see a lot of black folk go over to the Republican side, and I do think we might see more black folk that were in that side of the political spectrum. Because truthfully, I
Okay.
feel just with my family alone, I feel like a lot of black people are like conservative in nature,
Mm-hmm.
but they just don't rock with who's currently there. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah,
So,
we're
but I
we're
do think
our
you're gonna
Black
see a shift.
Americans are more traditional. Our culture is more conservative and traditional. You can say, yeah. I would agree with that.
I'm sorry to
You
interrupt,
know,
But if
but
you,
I think I
you
could
know,
add to that.
hold on, because then we got a few more other people who haven't gotten a chance to speak yet. All right. Shout out to my mod BX. Okay. All right. She has great conversations all
oh,
the time, more often than I do. I don't get on TikTok live that often, but y'all should follow her if y'all want engaging conversations. But
well,
You
thank you
Afro.
for letting me have my piece, brother.
okay, yeah, no problem, no problem. We just want to give everybody's opinion. Now, if y'all agree or disagree, or y'all feel like they both trash, y'all feel like the Republicans are good, the Democrats good, feel free to speak your mind, and then we can have a respectful conversation. Because too often, what we have is somebody who's politically biased, and they open a open-ended panel, and they lean way to one side or way to another side, and then it becomes like an echo chamber, or you're debating or attacking somebody who has a different political view. Now, for me, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, so I'm not leaning to any side. Y'all can talk trash about either party, and I'm gonna be sitting back almost agreeing with every point. So, I think that this is the stance that we need to have in order for us to at least be able to understand each other's point of view more. So, with that being said, you came up love, and then we'll get to international.
Okay, peace, peace. So my idea about this whole thing is we could say who's worse for black people, Democratic or Republican, but we have to understand that those two are representatives of this government. And we know the history of this government versus black people in general. So I always will remind everybody that those are two wings of the same bird. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't gangbang for any side because I feel like the way that we run democracy, the Republic, is never going to be in our favor due to numbers. We will never have the most vote on any side. So if Democrats make some kind of position like we should get reparations under this system, it's not going to happen. Most people don't like us as us just being black, and black is a political statement, and so they're not going to vote in our favor for reparations, even if the Democrats put it up there. So, how the system is run, that is the issue that we're facing, not uh, Bloods versus Crips. That's what I call the right wing versus left wing argument. It's literally none of them are good for us because the system is set up in a way that we would never, ever get people to vote for our safety and not harming our children and the education of our children. These things don't matter to the wider people, Republican or Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I feel like it's two wings of the same bird. And because of this government and the history, none of it is for us. Both of them are equally as bad for us.
Okay. Okay. We can respect that opinion. Thank you. Um, and now let's get you international realtor.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. It was a little
Okay.
like, are you on the speaker or something? I don't know.
No, I'm on my AirPods.
Okay. It's a little
Okay.
sound when you're not talking, like a little something like.
Oh, that's the hold on, let me pause it. It's my baby's sound machine thing. Hold on. Okay, is that better?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you got it.
Okay, perfect. So, thank you so much for having me on the panel, and I appreciate the fact that you're not biased and you're coming from a perspective of trying to listen out and hear out both sides. In my personal opinion, I feel like the Republican Party is worse for Black people,
Okay.
and it's because of Oh,
Hold
somebody.
on. Everybody coming up got a mute. Everybody coming up got a mute.
وعليكم السلام يا أخي بارك الله بكم.
Okay, so I'm listening, but you got to
One
make
minute,
sure.
1 minute. There are people who go around virtually panhandling. So when they turn on their camera like that, they start doing signs and things to get gifts and coins. So
Okay, yeah,
just
we're
be
not gonna
mindful
have
of
that.
that.
Yeah, we're not gonna have that. So we're gonna let me see here. Can I turn your camera off? All right, there we go. Thank you,
أنا
BX.
Okay,
Go ahead, go ahead.
You're
no
welcome.
problem. So I
أخي أنا
feel like
أحتاج مني
it,
مساعدة،
I,
أرجو من الله
okay, let
وأنتم
me
تساعدوني.
pause myself again.
All right, well, you got to go then, because that's not what we're on. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. So I feel like the Republican Party is worse, in my personal opinion, compared to the Democratic Party. And it's just based off of the legislations that they've put into place that have detrimental impacts on the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
Now, policies that I like from the Democratic Party, and I'm not a diehard Democratic person, I more so look at like policies and legislation that they put through Congress to say, like, okay, which party is better. And for me, one thing that I thought was really good that the Biden administration did was they expanded Medicaid. And what Medicaid did, especially for first time moms or, women giving birth, is it allowed for you to get coverage for all of your prenatal visits for the entire time of your pregnancy plus 3 months after. So, like throughout 9 months, you get to go to the doctor, and that's covered under Medicaid, which is affordable health care. 60% of Black children are born to Black moms on Medicaid, and the Biden Harris administration expanded that. Now, Trump came in and repealed that, so it shrunk the Medicaid expansion to what it was originally, which was 60 days. So if you were pregnant underneath Biden's administration and you didn't have affordable insurance or you just didn't have insurance at all, you were able to get prenatal care and postnatal care. And you know how it is for specifically Black women when we talk about prenatal care, postpartum depression, and things like that. So that's a policy that I could say that the Democratic Party put forward that I can get behind personally. So that was like my 2 cents in terms of an example and why I support the Democratic Party.
Okay, all right.
Uh, I have a question. I would like to know what state she lives in, because in New York, we had that all the time. So I had my first child in 1993, and we called that program PCAP.
Yeah, I
So,
live in a red state. I live in Georgia.
oh, okay. So maybe
Yeah,
it
so
was
it's a little bit
okay.
different. Like blue states are a
Yeah.
little bit more progressive with affordable health insurance, and red states are more so like, oh, you're on your own. Who gives a damn?
Oh,
So it's a
wow.
little bit it's a little bit different out here.
Okay.
Okay, understood.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate you sharing your opinion. Let's get you retro. You got it.
Yeah. Who's worse for black people? I would say the Republicans. I feel like with all the systemic racism and without any reparation, it doesn't make sense. The conservative perspective doesn't make sense to me. It's a little unrealistic. Maybe if we had some reparations or things to get our community to where we could feel like everyone's starting from the same place and all that, then we could feed into some more of the conservative perspective. But right now, I feel like the Democrats have done the most and are down to do the most for our community specifically, along with a lot of others. Whereas the Republicans is just a little bit more cutthroat, if you ask me.
Okay. Can you specify what you mean when you say the Republican perspective, what or the conservative perspective? What does that mean exactly in your opinion?
So conservative is more like people who don't want the extension of healthcare, like Obamacare or affordable healthcare. They don't want everyone to be covered. They don't want to pay more so everyone can be covered. Welfare, food stamps. They don't want. They feel like people are just working the system. That's a person who's trying to conserve, and it's conservative. They don't want to just give out free services to swoop everybody up under the wing.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they're more willing to, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I got mine. You need to get yours. I should have to pay more. But I feel like if we really thoroughly look into it, if they paid reparations, they wouldn't have to be worried about supporting so many people that they are trapping in a system of systemic racism.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's your stance, and let's get to Trey, and then we can like really start the conversation because I think enough people really given their stance. Trey, are you with us? Okay.
It was on mute.
Okay. What's up, Trey?
Yeah, so
What's
what's
your stance on
um we got to remember that the Civil War was fought between these two parties to keep the slaves.
it? Okay.
I think we got to remember that. So that and if we look at the symbols of the donkey and the elephant and we look at how you're able to work each one of them animals, it totally makes sense on how they've been able to work us. Like you work an elephant by chaining his feet, and then you work a donkey by getting him to trust you.
Mm.
So um you see how fast they signed that budget from El Cheeto Man that everybody loves to hate. They didn't waste no time doing that. It was a unanimous decision. So at this point, if we're no, let me not say it that way. At this point, it should be obviously clear that they are two parties of the same slave system.
Mm.
They never fought the Civil War to free no slaves. So we have never been not that. It just they needed a different way to work us. So they pushed us to the trusting mentality to work us as opposed to the physical chains.
Okay.
And that's just a reality. It's really not a debatable thing. It's really not something that we can go back and forth and say, oh, maybe this, maybe that, or policies. If you look at all the policies that ever been signed into law, none of them has benefited us in any way, and no one can say that any of it has benefited us. If maybe it will benefit you if you want to be in their spaces, then yeah, I can see it benefits you, but then that doesn't benefit you at all. So um, we should be past that conversation, and so not saying we should be past the conversation or in the sense of discrediting what you're talking about, but we as a people really need to get that under our understanding that these two parties fought for who was going to keep us, period. Um, that's just what it is. And now that they have overwhelmingly voted to to keep us in chains, we are becoming more understanding of these things and it's backfiring on them. So I think now is a great time for us to really hone in on that idea of we dealing with two different groups of people that really don't care about us on a certain level. But that's, I don't want to get long winded, but that's
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let me give you. Let me say my piece on it. Let me give you my piece on it. Hold on. Let me see. All right. Yep. I just changed that right there. Okay. Made this a little bit bigger, right? Um, I don't think, and this is coming from a very non-biased point of view, because like I said before, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, and then whatever the case is, right? None of the parties care. None of the parties care. I think a lot of black people, if we're just going to specifically talk about black people, okay, we have to understand that these politicians, they don't really believe in these stances. You see somebody, they'll be a Republican then, and then they'll switch to a Democrat. They put their political parties on like jackets. They'll take one jacket off whenever it fits them, then they'll put another jacket on. I will give a perfect example. Donald Trump. Donald Trump, for a majority of his life, was a Democrat. He didn't become a Republican until right up until he decided to run for president. Now, when you think of Republicans, he's the first guy you think of. Donald Trump, the starch Republican, MAGA and all that stuff, when most of his life he was a Democrat. He associated with Democrats. He worked with Democrats. Democratic people loved him, or whatever the case is. And then to his convenience, he just switched to a Republican, or whatever the case is. And then you have Republicans who, when they want to, they switch to Democrats. These are not like core principles, that these people really believe in. These are just things. These are parties and stances that they fit based off of their convenience. If they feel like, okay, well, I have a higher chance of becoming mayor if I'm in like a red state, if I'm in, you know what I'm saying, some state or city in Texas. Oh, I'm a Democrat now, but I'm going to be a Republican so I can get this seat. You know what I'm saying? So they play a lot of these games. So we got to understand that these people are not really super principled with that. You know what I'm saying? They talk about, police reform and prison reform and stuff like that. And most of the Democrats, especially in the 90s, like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Bill Clinton, they were the ones who were super locking people up. They were the super prosecutors, writing crime bills left and right. It was mainly the Democrats who are doing that. Now the Democratic stance is, now we need prison reform. Now we need police reform and everything, when they were the original ones who were doing that. You know what I'm saying? The Republicans, they used to have a stance, but now their Republican stance, they switch. So I don't think we should get super caught up with that. We should get caught up with, we shouldn't get caught up, let me not say that. But we should focus on the principles and the policies. Now, as far as the Democrats and Republicans, I want to say something that was said earlier in the live, right? People are like, well, the Democrats, they like allow, and they were saying people of color, but let's just say for the sake of the argument, black people, right? They were allowing black people to get a seat at the table. You know what I'm saying? They allow more black people to get a seat at the table. Let's be very clear. Most people who are Democrat and Republican are white. Let's be clear with that. Now, the Democrats have more black people or non-white people, but they're still mostly white. So let's tell the truth about that. But even if you want to say that the Democrats allow more black people to get a seat at the table, then we have to ask, what good, and I'm being for real with this, what good is a seat at the table if the person sitting at the table isn't doing anything for the actual community? I mean, let's be honest, what good is a black president if the president will get up there and say, hey, I'm not a black president, I'm just the president of America. If this black president isn't looking out for black America, what good is it that he's black? Why would it matter that he's black? If a black person is in Congress, but that black person in Congress isn't advocating for reparations, isn't advocating to fix black communities, or isn't advocating for black people, what good does it, what does it matter if he's black or not, or if she's black or not? And here's the thing, if it doesn't matter, why do we give so much praise and credit to black people getting a seat at the table if that seat at the table doesn't actually translate into progress for the community? You know what I'm saying? And we've seen this, and we've dealt with this with black mayors. We got a lot of black mayors in Chicago and DC and LA and all of this stuff, and black people are struggling more than everybody else. So that's my stance on the whole seat at the table argument. What real good is a seat at the table if the rest of the community is struggling? And then when we say, hey, black folk are struggling in LA, black folk are struggling in Chicago or in New York, then you say, well, hold on, you have a black mayor though. The mayor is black. What good does that do? So the seat at the table thing, it would make sense, and I don't think in principle it's nothing wrong with having representation or a seat at the table, but it only matters if the seat at the table reflects progress for the community. And too often we see a seat at the table does not at all automatically mean progress. And many times a seat at the table for the black person who is in the boule, in the elite class, who doesn't really associate with black people, that means a lot of bad stuff happens to black people. And then when we speak out about the racism and the neglect, they say, hold on, but the mayor's black though. Hold on, but the governor is black though. You can't really say anything. So you can't blame racism. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't, because the governor is black, so it's you guys. You know what I'm saying? So I really don't agree with the seat at the table argument.
Can I say something, Afro?
Yeah. Uh huh.
So, as far as the prompt, who works for Black people are the Democrats. And I really can relate to what you're saying about what good is a seat at the table if it's not doing anything. So then I read a comment that said that like the Black politicians can't do anything because it's a white supremacist system. And so my question is then why even harp on the fact that we have Black politicians and push us to vote for them? Not only that, when we talk about the president and we talk about and we discuss our options and we discuss things like Kamala saying she would never do anything specifically for Black people. We discuss how she touched the Freedmen's Bank, which she really shouldn't have. And we say all these things. They said, well, we're Black. Like we're just supposed to accept things. Did our ancestors just accept things or did they fight for change? And they exacted change, right? Or we wouldn't have civil rights,
Mm-hmm.
right? They combated redlining, all these things. For us to sit here and say, well, we can't do this because we're Black. Why must we be expected to accept that? Our ancestors never expected anything. They knew that change would be uncomfortable. And what I think is the problem with, I'm going to say Black Americans, because I'm Black American with us is that we just we're too comfortable with, and I'm not going to say we're defeated. We have a lot of activists out there exacting change, but we got to remember, we got to put this into perspective. Our ancestors knew that change would be uncomfortable, but we had to be uncomfortable to exact change. Imagine if those who escaped slavery or escaped the plantations listen to those who said we'll never make it, massa do this, we
Mm.
still be on them plantations.
Yeah.
Like I can't do that anymore. And I'm wondering, y'all are still crying about Kamala losing, and I don't remember that time in my people. I remember them saying, "Oh, okay, life goes on, let's get it." And they would hustle, they would work, they people were literally crying that this lady lost. I don't remember a time when Black Americans were like that. We survived, right? I survived Reagan.
Yeah.
I survived both Bushes. We are resilient, and I think y'all got to remember that. Y'all have to. We can't let the fear mongering get to us. Am I an avid Trump supporter? Think that he could do no wrong? No, because when white people talk about cleaning up inner cities, I already know what they're going to do. They're going to over police us. They're not going to think job creation. I get that. Um, but I'm hopeful, and I'm ready to combat it when
Mm-hmm.
they start saying that they're going to do X, Y, Z. So we just got to be uncomfortable for a little while. Trump is in office. This is his second term. We ain't going to change during his first. Everybody was happy. I never felt during the Biden administration. I was very exhausted, very burdened, economically burdened too. I feel so much relief now. Um, I can see things clearly. And what I see is that y'all need to stop being scared and understand that change will be uncomfortable for us, but that we're resilient. All the things we've been through on this stand in these 50 states, and y'all crying over Kamala losing, we got to stop it. Mm-mm. Democrats have kept us behind, honestly. They really have. That's my opinion, though. But we
Yep.
need to get over it and stop into the fear mongering.
Now let me get to. I want to say
Okay,
something
sorry.
real quick
Okay.
because we have more speakers who haven't spoken yet. But Retro, you said something in the comments, and I want you to elaborate on that. You said that she couldn't say that she was doing something specifically for black people, or elaborate on that point.
Yeah, I don't believe that that's how politics work when you're talking about, for the whole country. Just because somebody's black, they can't just say, okay, so because I'm black, I'm going to take care of my black people specifically because for whatever reason. You can do it in a roundabout way, but the people are going to holler discrimination because it's like, well, Jamaicans, Haitians, Africans, there's other people who are black besides black Americans. Why are we singling out the black Americans?
Well, hold on. You guys got to.
I feel as though we're old, and I do feel as though there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, it seems like there's some kind of delusion every time we talk about doing something specifically for black people, federally or in government, where they act like it's discrimination for them to do something specifically for us. So to me, that's why it makes sense for them to avoid saying stuff like that, even though they may end up doing something that would disproportionately uh, contribute towards our community. Like
Okay. Well, here's my stance on that. Is that I would give you that if politicians do that to everybody. But yet, she was out there. She was talking about things she was going to do specifically for women voters, specifically for immigrants, specifically for the alphabet community, specifically for everybody else. And this isn't just her. This is a lot of different politicians who can get out and boldly talk about, or Asians as well too. There were specific campaigns specifically for the Asian Americans. They can specifically and boldly and unapologetically speak on what they're going to do for other communities. But when it comes to our community, which they rely on the most for them to even get in office, it's this, well, I mean, wink, wink, you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm gonna hook you up. I can't really say anything. There's no promises. We don't get no promises by any of the politicians. Yet these politicians, they can come hat in hand and they can sign contracts in blood, damn near, for these other groups of people, you know, and I think that the community, we have to mature past the, well, they can't say it or else they'll get in trouble, because we're giving them a pass for not making any promises to us. Every time we say, oh, well, we know why you can't say it because you're going to get in trouble and we don't want you to get in trouble. But so we're giving them a pass for not making any promises, but we're still giving them the vote. That's the thing. You know,
do we feel like the Republicans are making any promises, or does it seem like it's more, again, that conservative perspective? Pick yourself up. It's about to be uncomfortable, y'all. We know damn well they ain't gonna do shit for us. If anything, it's gonna be a little tighter now. The Democrats act like they want to do something, but they can't say it specifically for us, so we don't want it.
no, okay, but here's the thing: the Democrats here. Okay, no. Let me answer your question about the Republicans. No, the Republicans, when they say they're going to do something, they have the full intent on doing that. Okay, they're very clear and honest. They'll be honest with black people. Be all like, we ain't doing nothing for y'all. We ain't trying to. Y'all got to pull you. So, and this is why black people do not support the Republican Party. All right. And there's reason for black people not supporting the Republican Party. There's a justification and a logical justification for black people not supporting the Republican Party. I'm not an advocate of the Republican Party. So, I mean, you can make that argument and I would agree to you on that. I think, though, when it comes to the Democratic Party, we have this illusion that they really got our back. They just can't say it. But when they're in office, they'll look out for us, but they don't do that. If we look at California, you know, they just had a whole big reparations task force for the last couple years discussing reparations, having people come up to the podium and speak about reparations and everything. And then when it came down to actually signing the bills, the Democrats didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it. So, and we can talk about, I don't know where you're from, but we can talk about Chicago, how a lot of these politicians, they'll be all like, don't worry, I'm going to do something for the West Side and the South Side, which are the sides that black people live in. And then when they get in there, they're all like, oh, well, something came up, because we don't make them promise anything. And we just have the assumption that they got our best interest at heart. When they get in there, they don't look out for black people at all. And we keep giving them a pass by saying, well, you know, they couldn't. We give them a pass by saying they couldn't do it when they just honestly really didn't want to. And I think that the community needs to mature past the assumption that the Democratic Party wants to do something, they just can't. So when you make the argument that the Republican Party doesn't want to do anything, I'm not fighting you on that because I agree. But I do think that we should stop having this optimistic delusion of the Democratic Party because they don't want to do anything either.
Can,
May
can
I
I?
add to that?
Can I
Okay.
speak?
Can
Don't
I
want
speak?
to or can't.
No,
And
they don't want you. They don't want you
I
because
don't believe that.
California. Hold on, in California, and I know people personally in California who are there, and they told me in California the Democratic Party has a super majority. That's the bluest state in the country. They have a super majority. They could have passed those reparations bills if they wanted to. They didn't even introduce them on the floor when they were introducing bills because they didn't want to pass the bills. They didn't want it to get that far. So what happens often is the Democrats, they'll put this carrot on the string and they'll be all like, hey, you know, we got your back. We know we got your back, but we never really get there. We're on this hamster wheel thinking that we're going somewhere, and the Democrats will lie and they'll say things like, you know, we got your back, you know, I got you, or whatever the case is. But oh, something happened. Oh, something happened. Oh, something happened. It's always that when
Can
it
I
comes.
ask a question though? How can we always? Okay, so when I hear the Democratic Republican
Mhm.
conversation, it's like we allow the Republican Party. You're right. We don't, they're not going to give us nothing, and they don't promise us nothing. But yet, when I talked about the fact that the Democratic Party at least gave us a representation, it doesn't bother anybody who's African American that the Republican Party has made it blatantly obvious that they don't think that anybody other than an old white man is eligible or is qualified to hold a position in America, the highest position in America. To me, that's a representation of America and the equality and the unity and all of that. And what they're saying is that nobody else can attain that but a white man. That is what they're
That's
literally
pretty. Hold
saying.
on.
Let me
And
speak to
so
that.
let me say that. Let me just finish my thought before I forget. So
Okay.
I get it that maybe Barack Obama didn't do everything we wanted, but he gave us affordable health care. I get it that maybe Kamala didn't have everything together, but at least the fact that the Democratic Party was open-minded enough to say that we in America deserve other people that are qualified to be in this position, that to me says a lot. And when I
Well,
look at the Republican Party, there's nobody that looks like me. And if the
well,
and the black
let's be
people and the
honest.
black people that are in that party that do look like me, all they do is disgrace us by saying negative things about us as a community.
Okay. Well, let's be honest. Let's be very honest. First off, Obama made fun of black people a lot. Obama has constantly wagged his finger and talked down to black people a lot, and Kamala has done that a lot too. You can look at
Example.
videos
They're not
before.
perfect.
You can
They're
hold
not
on. You can
perfect,
look
but
at.
Trump has done it a
Hold
whole bunch,
on,
and we
no,
still
because
voted
we're
for him.
talking about stop. Because every time we try to hold them accountable or address where they're wrong, it's always this deflection about, well, Trump has done something. Okay, well, let's talk
Okay,
about
well,
them
we'll take
before
it
we
off of
talk.
Trump,
Before
but
we
I'm
hold
saying
on,
that
hold
maybe they
on,
have.
hold on. Before we move on to Trump, because we can go there, but before we move on there, let's talk about what the Obamas and stuff have done. Because the thing is when it comes to the Democrats and Republicans, we like to give the Democrats their W's and then kind of ignore the L's. You know what I'm saying? No, let's if we're gonna give them their W's, I think that's fair, but we're gonna have to give them their L's too. We're gonna have to do that because
I
Obama
agree with that. That's not a
consistently,
problem.
hold on, ma'am. Obama has consistently made fun of black people. Okay,
Example.
and a lot of Democratic leaders have made fun of black people. So we're not going to sit up there and
Example.
play that. But even if we don't, what like I said, what real good is representation if they get up there and they essentially act like they're not black?
So
What
you don't
good
think
is
the Affordable Care
representation?
Act helps?
What hold on. What good, honestly, is representation if somebody just looks like me but is not looking out for the community? No other community, nobody's going to say I want to vote. Asian community is not going to say I want to vote for an Asian president because he looks Asian. They're not thinking that way. No, the Hispanic community is not going to say I want to vote for a Hispanic president because they look Hispanic.
All
They
right.
are expecting that
Yes, they
Hispanic
will.
president or the Asian president to do something progressive and positive for the community. These people are just like, hey, I have dark skin, so you have to vote for me. No, that's not enough. And we
But
keep doing the thing of representation. I'm gonna be very honest, and this might be blunt, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, and I respect your opinion, but we have to get rid of this insecurity that we have, where we want to see representation that doesn't mean anything.
I disagree with you though, because
I
I
agree
feel
with
like
you.
Obama got in there before Obama was in there. Do you know how many people were unalived because of pre-existing conditions, because they could not afford health care, and the
Okay,
Republicans and
no, no, no,
everybody.
no.
Okay,
We're
let me let
talking
me let me
no,
let me finish
no,
what
no.
I'm
Hold
let
on,
me,
no, ma'am, no, because we're talking about black people.
I'm
Because when you
talking
talk
about
about
black
no, no,
people.
no, 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 because when you talk about general policies that affected the entire nation, what black people try to do is we embellish the things that the Democrats do as if that was for black people. Because if we're gonna give Obama that, we also have to admit to the fact that Obama bailed out the banks, even though the banks finessed a bunch of black people, and a bunch of black people lost their jobs, lost their homes, and were homeless, and Obama bailed the banks out. So if we're gonna give
Okay.
That's right.
W's,
That's
we
right.
gotta
Hope
give
that
But
L's
you know
too.
what bothers me
that
though is
makes
honestly,
that makes
let
no
me
sense,
just
Hope.
say one thing.
That
What bothers me
that's
is
what
you don't
happened.
want to
What are you
give you
talking
don't want
about?
to
That
give
makes no
Obama
sense.
any you don't want to give Obama any props.
No,
Did I
I'm
say he
giving him
wait a minute, let me
props.
say
I'm
something.
giving
I
him
didn't
props.
say he
But
wasn't
hold
perfect.
on, ma'am. Hold on, ma'am.
You say
I'm
he
giving.
did
I'm
nothing for the
no,
black
ma'am.
community that
Hold
helped
on.
the black
Hold
Ma'am.
on,
community.
ma'am. When we talk about the healthcare thing, because you're making it seem like he did that specifically for black people. That was a blanket racially blind policy that he did. Okay, so but if we give him props for that, and I think we can give him props for that, let's give him props for that. However, all I'm saying is, because your original point was representation, and I said if the representation doesn't specifically look after the community, then what good is that representation? Obama might as well have been white, and he could have still got Obamacare, or Asian, or Hispanic. Obamacare would have still been the same because that was a blanket racially blind policy. So
Okay.
I'm not. I'm saying that we shouldn't look at Obamacare as if this was his bone to black society.
But I never, what you
Can I say something?
misrepresenting is I never said that I wanted a black figure. I personally, I want my president to give to everybody. What I'm saying is the fact that one party is saying that other people of different races, of different, whether it's a man or woman, can have an opportunity. That's what I'm saying. One place is saying that you can't even have the opportunity. Do I want Obama to go up there and give me everything just because I'm black? No, I want him to represent the country. But I want what one party is telling you that you can't even be a figurehead for our country, that you're not even good enough to sit in that seat because every time anybody who is not white goes for that position on the Republican side, their own party tears them down. So that's the difference.
Ma'am, do you understand that Obama is the only exception that you're talking about? Because
But it happens on the
hold on, listen,
Democratic
listen, listen.
side.
Because when Kamala ran the first time, she was the first person knocked out the race, and the party completely turned against her the first time in favor of Joe Biden. The only reason the second time the party got behind her is because Biden dropped out like damn near last minute, and there was no other candidate, and then Biden immediately endorsed her. And it still took a little bit of time for the party to get behind her, but she was the absolute last option. She
So
was not
when,
their preferred choice. So
but
it's not
when did
like,
the
oh, they're so
Republicans ever give us
progressive.
an
And
opportunity?
I'm saying is
When?
if you're giving,
Ma'am.
in
Madam
my opinion,
Minister,
because you can
you be
still, I'm not
quiet.
trying to debate you, but you can still have your opinion. But my thing is about the collective of the community. And if the Republicans aren't doing something for the collective, then we shouldn't support them. But if the Democrats aren't doing anything for the collective, then we shouldn't support them either. That's my stance on it.
Okay, and
Does anybody else share a
That
that's your
comment?
literally
stance on it.
proves
But
the
I'm
point that
looking
I
at it as the
made.
fact that segregation is a problem, right? Segregation was something where they told us we didn't have an opportunity, that certain opportunities
Oh
would not be
man,
afforded, that we would not be able to get. So I'm looking at it that one party has moved past that and has
this
said
entire
that.
hey,
Do you
hold on,
understand that?
man.
Do you
Listen,
understand that
listen,
there was a lot of Democrats who were segregationists, like Joe Biden?
I
listen.
listen. I mean, I see what
Brother
you're
For
saying,
right
James.
but
now,
what?
exactly what I said from the very beginning.
Okay, So
Okay,
It's
but
purpose.
okay.
How you
Let
okay,
how
her
you
finish.
so
no,
you
don't
don't
Let
want,
her,
so
let her
nobody
finish,
wants to
and
listen to my point. I
we'll
listened to
no,
continue.
don't
everybody
And
no,
else's
we'll
don't
point.
take
continue with the
offense to that.
conversation.
Do
Okay.
Let's
not
just
take
let her
offense to
finish.
that.
Okay.
Let her
Please.
finish.
What I am saying is when I look at the Republican Party, it does not represent me because there is nobody there who even looks like me. So what that tells
Mm,
me is that I don't matter in that party. When I look at the Democratic Party, I see people like me who know things about me, who are actually concerned, who come in my community. I never see a Republican person. I live in Georgia. There has never been a Republican leader in Georgia who that is Caucasian that has asked me anything or has done anything. And when Kamala ran for president here, when I went for her rallies, there was people of all nationalities there, everybody. And she's
Lord.
constantly said, I believe in equality. When Donald Trump spoke, he disparaged black people, Hispanics. He talked bad about every race there was. So when I'm looking at that, the fact that people were okay with that, you're saying in this party that there's opportunity, but you're
No,
saying in the other
I didn't
party
say that.
that
I
there
didn't
is
say
no
that.
opportunity. Don't even think that you can get that position
Oh,
because you
you said okay.
cannot.
Never mind.
You see what I'm saying?
Can I
That's the way I'm
can I
Oh
looking
add
at it.
some?
oh man.
Can I add
This
something?
goes back to what I said from the very beginning that
Okay. Hold
The
on.
purpose of the Democratic
Let's let
Party.
some of the other people speak. Let's let some of the other people speak. Who haven't spoken yet, so we can be fair to everybody. We want to be fair to
For sure.
everybody. You know,
For sure.
whether you agree or disagree, we can have a respectful, fair conversation.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you've been waiting. You haven't spoken. Is Mizen K9?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's your stance on this? What's your opinion on that?
Brother, I'm going to be honest with you. I would have to agree with you. It makes no difference if we support the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. At the end of the day, our condition has not changed as it
It has
relates to
not changed.
politics.
Hold on. Everybody got to mute while one person is speaking.
And so,
My bad.
if we go back and we look at Malcolm X, what did Malcolm X say from his teacher, Donald Elijah Muhammad? He said that you have to watch out for the liberal. We know who the wolf is.
Mm,
We know who the wolf is. But it seems like for us black people, we don't understand that that fox will eat the chicken that is quick as a wolf will. We want black folks in positions and we still don't get anything. And it's supposed to be okay. We
mm,
know that Obama when all around the world trying to force something on people in Africa, and we knew it was wrong. But because of our mentality, we could not call it out. And I'm just saying this, if we want our condition to change, we got to do something different. We can't be like the donkey with the carrot in front of us, because that's what the Democratic Party has been doing.
mm,
It's constantly dangling that carrot, and we running thinking that things is going to get better. They saying, hey, vote for me. Things are going to get better. And we looking, and things are not better. Let me make my point as I land this plane. Our sister Presley absolutely slapped us in the face with this introducing HR 40 again. Why
mm.
didn't you introduce it when you all were in power? Because you have no intention to get it passed in the first place. You're playing the same game that the Republicans playing. And until we see that we're not going to get what we want out of either one of these parties and create a third political force, then we'll start making progress. As long as the Democrats know that they can use and abuse us, mistreat us, and manipulate us, they're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to get what we've been getting out of them, which is nothing significant. And the Republicans are going to do the same thing. So, in my conclusion, neither one of the parties from the beginning, they was not for us. If you go back to the compromise of 1877, what did they decide? We're going to pull the troops from the South to let y'all do what y'all want to do to these slaves. And it was agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats, and they ain't fixed that yet. Neither one of them. So why we continue to be gaslighted and manipulated by these parties who, though they may have somebody in that seat, but keep in mind, as a lot of people been put in place, a lot of black folks been put in place to do things against black people, to make
True.
sure that the outcry from the black community ain't what it should be. Fred Hampton was killed in his bed.
You can't say the K word because you know
Well,
TikTok.
he was unalive in his bed, and you know what? They used another black man to get the job done. So I'm not concerned about no black faces. I want to see some progress for our people.
May I add something to
All
that
right, go
point?
ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hold on, because we still got some more people who haven't gotten a chance to speak at all. So let's after you, it was JJ. Uh,
Yeah,
J-
it's JJ.
JJ. Okay, what's up? What's up? What's your stance on the topic?
Yeah, what's up? How y'all doing? As far as both parties, they both suck. One more than the other, which is the Republican Party.
Okay.
Um, if you look way back when, of course, we all know, yes, the Democrats created the Triple K. Yes, we know that. And those guys were conservatives. Today, the Triple K is still conservative. And guess who's conservative today? That's the Republicans. The bottom line is from the beginning, the conservatives have cared nothing about anybody that is non-whitey, and that's period. You can't look through history and say that, oh, the conservatives have done X, Y, and Z for non-whitey people. You can't see it anywhere.
Mm.
Okay. I know people say, oh, the party's never switched. Well, if the party's never switched, the Democrats created the Klan. They were conservatives. Today, the Democrats aren't the conservative party. So obviously, that's a switch right there. So why people keep saying there's no switch, it makes no sense. And if you
Mm-hmm.
look throughout as far as the rights you've gotten, and as far as who's trying to take those rights away, right? As far as what your ancestors fought for, who's trying to take those things away right now? That's the Republicans.
Well, let's be clear because I don't want any confusion. Can you specify the rights that you're speaking of? Because and I'm saying this because there's going to be people who are going to say Democrats are taking away rights.
No,
So
no,
can
no,
you
no,
specify
no,
which rights you're
no.
speaking of?
Rights, as far as I mean, I don't mean to say rights. I mean, as far as your what your ancestors fought for, as far as black people. I'm not talking about ABs or any of that other stuff. I'm just talking about the things that your ancestors fought for, whether it be your Black history, uh, you know, in schools and all that stuff. Who's taking those things away? Who's trying to take those things away?
Okay.
It's not the
So
Democrats. It's not the Democrats.
you
That's the Republicans. Who's trying to wipe um what is it, the damn it, brain fog, the your um anyways, forget that. But as far as if you look at who's trying to uh take things that were fought for by black people, not us today, but from the past, it's
Hmm.
the other side.
Okay.
And in my opinion, like I said, both parties are not good for us, but at least one party does for everybody. Now, the other party pretty much does for white supremacy, period. You know, back when they freed the slaves, they gave reparations. They gave reparations to whitey men. When they gave out land here, they gave land out to what? Whitey men and whitey men from other countries. So if people are sitting around today thinking, "Oh, you're going to get reparations anytime soon," it's not going to happen. Okay. I mean, today they give reparations to, the little hat people. Why? I don't know. So the bottom line is, everywhere you look, the black people have been ignored by both parties. So if you're thinking, "Oh, yes, you're going to get reparations from this party or from that party," it's not going to happen anytime soon because they've given out tons of things to a whole bunch of people, but not to you. And that's not going to change. But as far as which party is better, I'd say the Democrats is better because why? They do for everybody. Unlike the Republicans who just, pretty much, hey, you're on your own. That's the mindset.
Mm, okay. Well,
Can I speak,
all right.
please? Please,
Okay. So we'll
please.
let the next speaker go because I respect you guys. We are all adults here and we're all having a respectful conversation. There's people who agree or disagree, and I appreciate the fact that everybody is remaining respectful. I know a lot of you all want to interject, but I appreciate you guys having the discipline not to do that. So thank you for that. So we'll just let the people who haven't spoken speak, and then we can continue having a conversation. So, forgotten amateurs, you got it, and then retro, you have a question, and we can, keep it.
Thank you, Afro. I appreciate it, man. So this is I've been holding this. I've been sitting on this panel holding this, and it's something I want to express. I do think if us as BLK people are going to vote democratically, there needs to be a reconstruction of the party because we can't associate with them by saying, "Well, what are you going to do for us?" That can't be our thing. We have to have an agenda. We really don't have an agenda collectively because when you look at how, in my opinion, and if I'm wrong, y'all let me know if I'm wrong because I'm not going to debate y'all. I'm just going to tell y'all what I witnessed. I witnessed Kamala identify with some of us with small portions of our culture, maybe the way we speak. I saw her sit at an interview on her phone talking about nothing, girl. I'm out here in these streets. And I'm like, who you trying to identify with right now? Doing that. Meg Thee Stallion is an educated woman. And instead of having her speak because she's educated, you had her up there clapping cheeks. Like, come on, what we doing? And I know that wasn't the whole campaign, but the fact that you had to go to those certain relatable things was disturbing to me. It was disturbing because it's like, bruh, that's not all we care about. There's educated BLK people. There's entrepreneur BLK people. There's some powerful BLK people. And historically, we've been oppressed. We've been enslaved, all of that. But we do have to realize we are in 2025 and all of us right now have the freedom to spend our time on this app. So freedoms are different, and we do have freedom. We have freedom of discretion. We have freedom of how we're going to use our time. We have different freedoms, man. So we also have to look at where we are today
Mm-hmm.
and reassess from there. And that's where I'm gonna land my plane.
Okay. Okay.
I agree with him. Afro. I agree that she could have had Megan speak. Megan is college educated. You know, there's a time and a place for everything. I like Megan. I don't have nothing against Megan, but I would rather her tell us how she dealt with her life traumas to become, an award-winning rapper and stuff like that, and how she handled going to college and some of her, the American way, not the American degradation, twerking all over the place. I
Mm.
didn't get it. I
Yeah,
didn't get it.
you make
So
it.
I want to offer this Afro. All black people living in America are not black American, right? They're Caribbean, they're African, they're this, they're that. And I think it would be insightful to see their ethnicity as they're giving their insight. Um, because black Americans have different needs than black immigrants, and that's period. So it would
Yeah.
be interesting to know their ethnicity.
Okay.
Explain that.
I'm a foundational Black American, right? Which means my ancestors fought for certain rights and benefits for us to have, right? And so we're demanding that those things be given to us, right? Because we look at the Caribbean, they have things specifically for them that we can't go and get.
Like
The
what?
African, hold on.
Piggyback. I agree.
Mhm.
For instance, the conversation of reparations. It's a lot of Caribbeans and people from the diaspora who would not qualify for reparations. So for y'all, reparations might not be an issue. Y'all might not be voting on reparations as a thing that you care about at all because you wouldn't get it regardless. So you're coming to the table with a very different set of agendas and demands than we would come to the table with. So I do agree with that point. I do agree with that point. We do have different things that we're looking for.
Can I speak on the reparations piece real quick? That you
Right.
brought it up.
No, let's let BX finish.
Um,
I cut her off.
Yeah,
Let's
my
let
bad. Yeah.
here's the thing, right? So Jamaicans have a Jamaican Chamber of Commerce. It's built to give them an economic floor base and help them with businesses and all of that. The Haitians have one too. I don't see one for Black America, right? But I do see whatever's allocated to the Black Americans is siphoned and distributed for everybody. But there's an African Immigrant Caucus, which I'm floored because why? We have the Congressional Black Caucus, which is filled of immigrants. And then we're voting people in and they're talking about then we don't need Black History Month. They're sabotaging our reparations movement. But they have things specifically for them. So Black people, Black Americans, are fighting for things specifically for us. And the water should not be blurry. The line should not be blurred, right?
mm,
Because an immigrant can be Black in America, but they're not Black American. You cannot migrate into our ethnic group, and that's what's been happening.
mm,
So we're just trying to set cultural boundaries, fight for the things that our ancestors were rightfully owed. That's what America is about. It's about generational wealth, and y'all are not of the lineage to have what we are demanding to improve our neighborhoods. So if you are a Black immigrant, no tea, no shade, but you need to go look for CARICOM when you're looking for certain things, because Black Americans have to do some things on our own.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
yeah. Okay.
Right. So
Where are your
it's
people
go
from?
ahead.
Where are your people from? Real quick, JJ.
For me,
Yeah,
I'm African.
African
Right.
from
So good luck with that and going to develop them
where?
33
Where from
underdeveloped
Africa?
countries.
Mhm. Yeah,
Where's your
what's,
people from Africa?
I'm from Nigeria.
Okay. Now, do you understand? This is exactly why she said that. And that was a really good point. Because when we're talking about reparations and stuff like that, that would apply to me. That would apply to BX and some other people. Because you don't have the same lineage, it wouldn't apply to you because your people were not
Um,
enslaved in this land. So you might vote for a different set of priorities. You're bringing a different set of priorities and a different agenda to the political table than we are. You know what
okay,
I'm saying?
cool,
So when
cool,
we
cool.
having this conversation, we need to know who all is among us when we're having this conversation.
And that's cool. But if you're voting for reparations, why would you be voting for the conservatives?
Who said that we
Hold
voted
on. Nobody is
for
talking about
reparations?
in one of the bad faith arguments that gets made is that anytime we say something that is critical or unfavorable about the Democratic Party, we have a bunch of people who are just automatically indoctrinated to be all like, well, the conservatives aren't going to do it. Okay, so if we're not going to get it from the conservative side, then what, and we're not going to get it from the Democratic side, why are you guys constantly mentioning that we're not going to get it from the conservative side? Because Kamala blatantly said no. Biden said no. Bernie Sanders said no. There, I can give you a name. Stacey Abrams said no. I can
And
give you.
why do they say no?
Hold on, no.
Hold
I can
on.
give you a name. I can give you a laundry list
True, but
of
why
Democrats
do they say no?
Who specifically said no on camera, said no. There was another one, not was it Elizabeth Warren said no. I can give you a
Why?
list of them who
Who?
said
But
no.
why?
Hold on. So when they say no, then okay, we still gotta go with them. So what's the difference between Kamala saying no and Trump saying no? A no from him means no. A no from her means no. If it's both a no, why are we leaning to one side?
Why not go
Because
independent?
I think because we want to be a part of, and we want to be accepted by them, and we want to be at their table instead of getting something for ourselves to do something for ourselves. That's the bottom
Right,
line.
because
I
the
ain't gonna
white tea
sugarcoat it.
man's ice is colder. That's like, y'all
And
getting on my
that's what I
nerves.
was saying about, like, let's be honest. We got too many people who are insecure. We got too many people who are insecure and too many people, and I'm not saying this about anybody on the panel, but I'm talking about the collective of people who are insecure and all they want to do is be in the same room as them, and all of those people want to just sit up there and get along. This isn't about getting along with nobody. Okay, black people, black Americans, we got to stop focusing on being liked by somebody. If you say no, if one person says no, then then that's all you have to say. That's all you. Who's
So
I want to
everybody
say
got to
this.
mute.
I muted them.
Everybody
I
got to
I
muted
mute.
think
them.
Everybody has to mute. Okay. If one party says no and another party says no, then it's both a no. You can't be all like, well, the Republicans going to say no. Yeah, but the Democrats said no too. So why every time we bring up reparations, you all like, well, y'all not getting it from the Republicans. If we were getting it from the Democrats, we would have got it by now. If they really wanted to do it, they would have done it by now. If
Okay,
they really wanted to do it, they would have done it by now.
and I told you that you're going to get it from none of them, neither
No,
one.
we're gonna
Okay.
get it. No,
Okay.
we're
So
gonna
you're
get it. No, 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 no,
Nigerian.
no, no. We're gonna get it. And
Put
see,
that in the air.
You're not concerned with getting it because you wouldn't get it. We're going to get it. But the thing is that are they going to want to give it to us? No. Are we going to get it going the way we've been going? No. So we're going to have to change the way we operate and change the direction in which we move in order to get it. But we are going to get it. This is not a.
Well,
It's not a. We're not going to
What?
get it. We
My
will get
Afro.
it. But
what
we're
is it?
just going to have to change the way we move
One
to get
minute, Jay.
Is it a third
Isn't
party?
Evanston, hold on. Isn't Evanston, Illinois paying out reparation to their population over there?
it. Yeah,
A form of
Evanston's
repar.
already rolling out like kind of like a diet reparations thing, kind of.
Okay, so we didn't go after federal yet, sir. We're going state by state. So you don't, you could say, well, you're not going to get it. And I see why. And I saw the disconnect with the way he was saying your ancestors, your ancestors. That's why I said we need to know these people's ethnicity because it'll help shed some perspective on why they're saying some things that they're saying. So here's the thing. This is a courtesy conversation. You are not Black American. You are not foundational Black American. You basically, the hardest thing you had to do was pack a suitcase and migrate here. And if you are first generation, then your parents did it. That was the easiest thing because my ancestors did the hard work. So you're not entitled to, and you could try to speak down on all you want, but you're not tapped in with us. You're not
I
even
don't
in
spoke
our
down
life.
to
So you're
anybody.
not, you're not privy to know that we're going to get it or not, because it's not your business.
You don't cut
And
off.
that goes for
Not
everybody.
gonna allow that. We're not gonna allow you to cut off BX. Not me. I'm not gonna allow that. No disrespect to her. It's tolerated
Thank
on my
you.
panel, and we're going to continue the conversation. But
Yeah.
let's retro. You had a question you wanted to ask.
Yeah, we came a long way since the thing I'd raised my hand to speak on, but I'll still make the
Yeah, I
point.
know. We be flowing. Yeah, but do you
Yeah,
remember your question?
I do. It was in regards to when we were speaking about
No, you didn't
Obama.
speak down, JJ, but you were cutting her off as she was talking.
Yeah, the
And then we
interruption.
have more people want to speak. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah,
retro.
no problem. So yeah, when we say that we want to take the race out of it and not look at it like, oh, just because we got a black person, we need to be focused more on what they're doing, then we got to be consistent with that. So my thing is, if Obama did affordable health care, and
Hmm.
that's something that the conservatives or Republicans are trying to repeal, that is something that's not about. We got to take the race out. We got to be consistent. Did this help the black community? Yes. So this means that the Republicans in that instance would be worse for black people than the Democratic Party. And one thing I notice is that it's kind of given like the fact that black people didn't get everything that they wanted on their Christmas list from the Democrats, that now they're so mad and they haven't done anything for us, nothing substantial, nothing worth talking about. Everything that they have done that has made life easier for us is thrown in the trash because they haven't done reparations quickly enough, or because they haven't specifically spoken to the black community and specified what they're going to do for us specifically, but rather doing things that help us disproportionately. They're not getting any credit for that. They ain't done nothing. And that to me, speaking in those absolutes reveals the emotion. People are upset. I get it. They're not happy, but let's not be ungrateful and just throw everything away or try to measure up the two when we know there's really no comparison. I'll land there.
Okay, well let me add this to the conversation because we're not, we are people who are fair and we do give credit where credit is due. But let's be realistic about our position. The Democrats get in power because of the black votes. They've admitted this. We are their biggest base. They cannot win an election if they do not have the black vote. All right. So they rely on us to do anything at all, period. So let's give that to them. So we should be at the top of their list of priorities of the constituency that they need to take care of. Yet we see ourselves at the bottom of the priority list. At the back, we get the scraps, we get whatever is left over. That's what we get. Now, I can understand. Do we expect to get every single thing on our Christmas list? Probably not. Should we be um, appreciative of what we do? Okay, that's great. But when we see a whole bunch of people illegally charge and break into the country, and now they're sleeping in nice hotels and they're getting debit cards for food and they're getting taken care of and they're getting job programs and they're getting checks and they're getting a bunch of stuff that we weren't getting, even though it was our vote that put them in office. And yet you have people who can't vote for them and they get to leapfrog us as far as a priority. It comes down to, well, I'm sorry, but yeah, we can't. Why do we keep getting leapfrog? Why do we keep getting skipped over? And we get skipped over and skipped over, and we're told that we need to accept whatever we get from these people. Yet our vote needs to consistently keep these people in power, but we keep getting skipped over. We're paying. It's like if you and your friends y'all order a pizza, you pay for majority of the pizza. You pay for about 70% and you only get a slice, and everybody else is getting most of what you are paying for. And black folk are tired of that. We're tired of we got a list of stuff we want. The Hispanics got a list of stuff they want. The Asians got a list of stuff they want. They get what they want. They get what they want. We don't get what we want. But we got to understand that we don't get what we want, even though we're the main constituents. We're their main voter base, that they couldn't win without us.
Now, one thing I will speak as far as devil's advocate in regard to the Democratic Party, I feel like, the immigration and the Hispanic community is neck and neck with the black community at this point. In other words, we brought so many immigrants in here that their vote is just as important as ours, or our vote is not going to turn it anymore. So now we have to me, I feel like we need to go about this a different way, incentivize these other communities that are voting as well to vote with us, like a give and take, because it's not just black and white anymore. Now it's black, white, Hispanic, other. You see what I'm saying?
Here's the thing. When we're talking about, let's talk about the presidential election. They're one based off of the electoral college, which is one based off of swing states. Black people still control the swing states. They were saying this the last 4 years, that the Hispanic population has gotten so large that it is undercutting the black vote. That still has not happened. The black vote still controls these major swing states as far as the federal election is concerned. And then when we talk about the Hispanics, a lot of these and most of these Hispanics, they are actually conservative and they vote conservatively. You can look at the last few elections. These Hispanics will primarily vote conservatively, yet they are still prioritized by the Democratic Party over the black vote, who almost at a 100% rate will vote for the Democratic Party.
How are they prioritized more than us? How?
Wait, can I add something to the
Hold on, before we
conversation?
interject, because I'll let everybody go, but me and Retro, let's dialogue for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So when we're saying we need to essentially work together with them, and try to get along with them, the Hispanics didn't have to come to black people, be all like, okay, well, we'll work together with you guys. Why do we have to compromise our demands for other groups of people when they don't have to compromise? They never have to compromise their demands for what's in our best interest. No other group of people compromises their demands or tries to make a deal or anything.
What demands did the Latino people?
If you don't be quiet.
Hold on, Cash. Well, you know what? I feel like it's more about a critical mass, right? And I do want us to focus on us and not them. But if their votes would help overturn or push forward what we need to be done, are there things that they want us to vote in regards to that would help them? Do you see what I'm saying? Like maybe part of the immigration process or some policy that we can vote on, that they can vote on to incentivize. And the only reason I'm saying that is because we want reparations, right? But we need a critical mass. We need not just the black people, because we know everybody black want it. We need people of other races to do this as well. I'm not saying focus on them or, I'm just saying, I feel like there's another way for us to go about it than trying to create more division. I feel like that's what is the downfall of the Democrats. We want to make everybody happy, and we can't. Whereas on the Republican side, they identify an enemy. They identify one blame. They all agree on one thing, even though there's stuff that they don't like. They're not trying to make everybody happy. They're kind of all going. They're okay with not making so and so happy. Whereas the Democrats, we're all divided. And why the black community? Why the Asian? Why the this? Why the that? Too busy trying to please everybody instead of aligning on one accord. That's all.
No. Can I?
A coalition for reparations is not going to work. It's going to be very problematic. I'm gonna let other people speak, but that's going to be incredibly problematic. Okay, we should not coalesce. We are enough. We got to understand that about black people. We got to get our self-esteem up. We're enough. We're enough to make things change. We've always been enough. Okay, back in the civil rights movement, we were told, well, it's not enough for y'all. We are enough to make things change if we get on code. We don't got to compromise. We've always thought this way, and this is why we can't get nowhere, because we always thought that we got to compromise with somebody. Okay, well, we got to work with their team. We got to work with their organization. We got to do this with them people, because subconsciously black people believe that we are not enough, and we have always been enough. We are enough now as long as we are on code.
Hey, let me say this, if I can. I'm in Arkansas. I know you all can see my profile picture. I have been on the front line of the political spectrum since 2006. I went to prison as a teenager. I studied in prison. I got out. I wasn't out only maybe 3 or 4 days before I was on the campaign trail helping a black Democrat get reelected to the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
I have had the opportunity to be in the fight against Republicans. And what I want to tell you all is it's not even about our numbers. I've taken a small team to our state capitol, and I've shut the education committee down when they was trying to sell public education to private.
Did you do BX? Did you do that? I didn't do. I didn't
No,
do.
I didn't. No, I didn't. He might have got a call,
He
maybe.
was
Yeah.
Never
he was on
mind.
the county election commission and also on the state election commission, right? The Democrats were scared to deal with this man. This man impersonated a police, pulled out his pew pew, and all of that. And the Democrats were scared. So it don't matter if you got 1,000 Democrats. If all of them are scared, you won't get anything done. I remember us being in the education committee and looking around the room, and black people it was only a handful of us in there. We are not taking the fight to this enemy. We're not. I have saw them bow down when we come up and we show up and we got our stuff together, but we don't show up for the fight. That's the problem. And when we show up for the fight, we're worried about what the white other Democrats are going to do, and in many cases, they riding with them, and they got the numbers. So the Democratic Party, if you want to make progress, you got to be willing to clean up your own house. And this is my problem as far as riding with the party. I see weakness. I don't respect it. I see Democrats that when they see other Democrats crossing over and voting, and these people are in political power, they don't say nothing. You know what I'm saying? The party ain't got it together. If you look at the situation with Jeffries, and you look at the situation with the Senate minority leader, both of them are Democrats. One white, one black men. They couldn't even get their stuff together. So that's what I'm saying. The Democratic Party is not going to get it. We need a third force.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
cannot get these folks to organize properly because it's all about their money and maintaining their money in their pocket. They don't care about us. And we got to get that out of our head to think that just because they're black and they're in power, that they care about it. They care about their own purse, their own pocketbook, their own bank account. They do not represent us. And
Okay.
that's why You can say whatever you want to say. They did not present House Bill 40. They did not reintroduce it when they was in power because they did not want it to pass. And there was Democrats at the national level, and we turned a blind eye and didn't say nothing, swept it under the carpet. Now because Republicans are in power, they want to bring it up like they really want to do something. How come you didn't bring it up when you was in power? Because your intentions ain't right. And as long as we continue to go along with that BS, we're going to get exactly what we deserve, which is nothing.
All right, but and I appreciate that, brothers, and thank you for saying on. And I want to speak to that, but I want to let other people go, so we'll get to Cash, and then we'll get to international, and then the person is we'll just go ahead. Cash, you got it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I don't even see why this is a question. Who's worse for black people, Democratic or Republican? The obvious answer right now today is Republicans, given Donald Trump and everything that Republicans have done. It's just point blank. Republicans are worse for black people, period. I've heard people say, what have the Democrats done for us, or specifically, or whatever? It's as if black people are not diabetic. It's as if black people do not need health care. It's as if black people don't need civil rights. Okay? It's like some of y'all are forgetting about what happened in that church down there in South Carolina when that white supremacist walked his behind up in there, sat down, prayed with these black people, then got up and unalived each and every one of them.
Hold on. Okay, hold on. Everybody got to mute. Everybody got to
The
mute.
groups that he was from, they all vote Republican. They are now marching. They marched in, what is that, Ohio, was it? That they marched on the bridge. They've been marching. They've been emboldened. Okay. Thank God that black people vote overwhelmingly Democrat. You say I heard somebody say black people don't have an agenda. Yes, we do. Because we voted 92% Kamala Harris women and 86% Kamala Harris men. We do have an agenda. I live in Prince George's County, Maryland, one of the wealthiest black counties in the entire United States of America. And guess what? We have another wealthy black county in Maryland that is the wealthiest county, one of the wealthiest counties in black counties in the United States of America. We have two right here in Maryland. How did we get that? Is because we voted. That's how we got that. Okay. And then I heard some guy say something about Meg Thee Stallion. How can you? So because she put Meg Thee Stallion on the stage, that determined that you were not going to vote for Kamala Harris after Donald?
No. You know what determined that? When she said she wasn't going to do anything for black people. You know what else determined that? When she decided that she was going to touch the Freedmen's Bank. So it sounds like you're an elder stuck in your ways, and because you did well for yourself, you think everybody else is going to come up off
I'm
of a
not saying that. I'm
Democrat.
not saying that, big.
Okay.
I'm not saying that, big.
Okay.
All I'm
All
saying
right.
is that
So
we
here's my
we
thing.
voted.
Right.
Is that we voted. We
Y'all
have two
voted for
wealthy
Kamala.
counties
Right.
in
Mm-hmm.
the wealthiest black counties in the entire
Mm-hmm.
United States of America. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it's truly because we voted. Our lieutenant
It
governor is
wasn't
black.
hard
Our
work.
governor is black. Our executor is black. Our dog catcher is black. We got black businesses out the yin yang around here. Everywhere I turn, there's black businesses everywhere. Okay, all right.
Good.
And
Can I ask you a
I know
question?
my county is different from Mississippi, so or places like that. And speaking
Mm-hmm.
of Mississippi, the governor of Mississippi, he took funds that were allocated to the poor welfare funds in the tune of $8 million, and he gave it to Brett Favre so that Brett Favre could build a volleyball gymnasium for his daughter. And then y'all want to ask who's worse for black people, Democrats or Republican? It's as if
Now
you
hold on.
people,
Now
it's
as
as
you're
if some
doing
of
that,
y'all
hold on.
don't get it. And
I'm gonna
also,
let
here's another point. Then
sir.
there was a
I'm gonna let you.
Republican.
I'm gonna let you
Let
land.
me
I'm gonna
make
let
this
you
one more
land.
point. Let me make this one more
Okay,
point.
one more point.
Then there were when Kamala was running for president, there were a group of Republicans who said that she couldn't run for president or be president because she's black. They dug up an old Dred Scott ruling, okay, that said that black people are not citizens. So therefore, they said she's not a citizen because she's black. The Republicans did that and said that, but yet you guys have a question: who's worse for black people? It's as if y'all just forget about Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. I mean,
Now, hold on, hold
Donald
on.
Trump
Okay, you've been
deleted
going on for a
the
minute. You've been
police
going on for a
corruption
minute. Be quiet.
database.
Be quiet,
Okay,
dude.
go.
Okay. All right. I don't like talking over people. When we talk about Breonna Taylor, when we talk about George Floyd, do you know that none of the officers who did what they did to Breonna Taylor, none of them face any accountability? Now, Joe Biden promised a police oversight commission, and you had more police.
Yes, they
You
did,
have
sir.
more police.
I gotta
Be
correct you on
quiet.
that, sir.
If you interrupt me one more damn time, I'm kicking you off.
I
Don't
have to
you?
correct you, sir. They
No,
did.
you're gonna have to leave. That's what you got to do. I don't got time for that. Do you understand that Joe Biden, he promised in his campaign the police oversight commission, and then the second he got in office, he said, you know what, I'm not going to deal with that, I'm going to give it to Congress, and we never heard about it again? You know, when they were talking about the whole thing with the George Floyd uprisings, do you understand that? And they were all like, they were on the side of defund the police, and then the second they got in office, they was all like, hey, actually fund the police. Joe Biden didn't do nothing at all to change the way police operated, which is exactly, I'm so rude is my room. I can be rude if I want to. Okay, it's a privilege for y'all to be up here. All right. And I respected his opinion. I told him he needed to land, and then he kept going and going and going and going. Okay, this is a room full of people. Do you understand that? So if you got, and that's the thing that gets me. Like if we're gonna talk about police brutality, you want to bring up Breonna Taylor. Well, what did Biden and Kamala do about Sonia Massey? What did they do about her? So let's not play that game. But before we go into that, because I feel like that's disrespectful to the families. I can disagree with your point, but I
Yeah.
don't like you being disrespectful to their families, making it seem like it's a political issue. This is an issue about racism between both parties, because Biden let a whole bunch of police executions and lynchings go on unpunished, and so did Trump. So this is
Jackfruit,
about
yeah.
racism. So
Can't say
we
the L
will
word.
respect their families here.
Yes, you're right. So we got to be mindful of TikTok language. We have to say things like strange fruit when we're talking about the L word. I know it's elementary, but we want to keep the conversation going. Um, that's it for now. Thank
All
you.
right, yeah, strange fruit. But yeah, let international. You got it.
Hey, thank you for letting me come back up and speak. A perspective that I wanted to embellish on, and I'm reading a really good book. It's called Save Our Democracy by Joseph Califer or something, whatever his last name is. But the main issue that I think is a problem between both parties is big money in politics. And I feel like as the Black community, if we want change, if we want things to be different for ourselves, if big money doesn't get out of politics, there won't be any change. And the only way that we can encompass on change is by lobbying politicians, which is unfair. But I feel like that's the game that we potentially would have to play,
Mhm.
and we would have to come with a mandate. We would have to put a lot of dollars behind a candidate, et cetera, et cetera. Because if we don't get big money out of politics, there's not really going to be much that each party can do. Because both parties, as you can see, when the guy was talking, he left. He was basically talking about how Chuck Schumer pushed forward the HR 40 bill as the minority Senate leader, and Chuck Schumer is basically like a Democrat straight from Wall Street. He's all about corporate dollars, even though he is quote unquote fighting for the people and he's a Democrat politician. So I think that's a perspective that we need to look at instead of trying to argue with each other about who's right, who's wrong, who has the best policies. I think we should all come together and try to come up with a mandate and lobby these politicians and put our physical dollars behind politicians that are making sense. And if they don't, cut their funding and primary them out of office.
I think that's a smart strategy. I think that is a smart strategy. We can't just assume that they're telling us the truth. Okay, we have to have a leverage. You know what I'm saying? Essentially, we got to control the politicians. One of the people that I've learned from a lot, Dr. Claude Anderson, he talks about that all the time. He talks about that you got to essentially buy the politicians, which is what these big businesses and these big corporations and stuff like that, billionaires and stuff like that, which is
And
what
our
they do.
buying power is strong. I think we underestimate our buying power, whether you're, Black American, Caribbean. I'm first generation American, by the way. But I want to see Black people
Where are
get
you from?
Jamaica. My family's Jamaican. But I
Okay,
want to
all
see
right.
Black people get reparations because I know that if y'all get reparations, it's only a matter of time before everybody else get reparations. So I'm pushing for reparations. I've told my fiance, he's Black American. He's like, you deserve reparations. I was like, I don't care about me getting reparations. I need y'all to get reparations first because if y'all get reparations, then everybody will fall in place.
Mhm.
Haitians will get reparations. Jamaicans will probably get reparations. The Caribbean, Africans, everybody would potentially get reparations, but it starts with Black Americans because y'all are the movement, and we look to you guys in terms of like how everybody else should move and stuff like that. So that's my point. But I think the only way to really do this is by lobbying politicians. We can't argue about who's right or who's wrong. We have to all get on one accord, figure out what's important to all of us, and lobby politicians and put out a black mandate, honestly. So, yeah.
hmm Now, here's the thing: when it comes to our offer to politicians, we should have, and I fully agree with you, and I just want to add on to that. Okay, when it comes to it, I want us to, when we get together and we lobby, one of the things about lobbying politicians that these other communities do is that they'll lobby both sides. They'll lobby the Republican side, they'll lobby the Democrat side, and whoever, it's like an auction. Whoever comes up with the right price, you know what I'm saying? They'll get the prize. If I'm auctioning my car, whoever comes up with the price, it don't matter if you're Republican, don't matter if you're a Democrat, don't matter if you're white tea, don't matter if you're black, don't matter if you're male or female. If you come up with the right price, you're getting it. I think we have to your point, we have to get more on that page and not look at things from a biased point of view. For instance, and I'm gonna say this example, and I'm gonna move on to the next speaker. When Ice Cube came up with that contract for Black America, and he went to Biden, and Biden said, "Hey, I ain't really trying to talk about that right now. I'm gonna talk to you after the election," which he never did. Another promise he broke, which he never did, by the way. And then when Ice Cube was all like, "Okay, fine, I'm gonna go to Trump," and then everybody's all like, "Ice Cube, you a sellout. How dare you go to Trump? Why would you even talk to Trump?" or whatever the case is. When he tried to talk to the Democratic Party, he tried to talk to Biden. Biden shut it down. And then when he tried to talk to Trump, Trump was at least, even though he didn't, go with it, Trump was at least more open to the conversation. So we got to take our bias and emotions and we got to throw that away. You know what I'm saying? I'm down to vote. If you are a Democrat and you got all of my checks off, you checking off everything on my list, you got my support. If you are a
Okay, let me
Republican
ask
and
you
you
this.
off on my
What
list,
what's on your
independent,
list?
checking out,
What's five
huh?
what's 5 things what are 5 things on your list that's like this is what I need from a politician, X, Y, Z. And I also want to hear from, what's her name? BX as well, because y'all are foundational Black Americans. And I feel like y'all's perspective is very important because
Mm-hmm.
y'all have the largest voting bloc in terms of, minorities. So what are your top five? And then I also want to hear from BX, like what's her top five non-negotiables when it comes to voting for a politician?
Well,
Can I make a quick comment here?
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna get
because
to
there's
that, but I'm
other
gonna let the
people.
other speaker go because I don't want to, you know, hold anybody up. So I'll let you go, and then I will remember your question. I'll let you go. But let's
Okay,
get to how do you pronounce your name?
Akko Ben,
Aquaban. Okay, you got it. Where are you from?
Illinois,
Is you
Chicago specifically.
okay?
Yeah.
What's your lineage?
I'm a so-called black man.
You're a so-called black man.
Yeah,
Where's
because
your family from?
I'm not really black. I'm brown.
Oh God.
I'm a
Bring your
so
family first,
I'm a
son.
Where's
Where's
your
your
family
family
so-called
from?
from?
Is your family a part of the lineage of slaves in America?
absolutely.
Okay. All right. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so this word lobby is just a nice word for what's really taking place, which is called bribery, because this was really taking place with K Street lobbyists who are writing checks to the people that we vote for, and then they write the legislation that's being brought forward by those very same people. The fact of the matter is, most of the people up there, they couldn't write legislation if their life depended on it because they're not that damn smart. Okay? If we continue to allow lobbyists to write checks to the people that we elect, then we will continue to get what we're getting. We don't need to have outside money in elections. They need to be publicly financed. End of discussion as far as money is concerned.
Mm.
It would be nice if we could get people who are really intelligent people, but intelligent people don't even want to step into the cesspool. If you look at the people up there and you're honest with yourself, we're not talking about the brightest or the sharpest knives in the drawer. That's why we have the kind of issues and problems that we have. We keep voting for the same disgusting people. They stay up there 20, 30, 40 years. So that's not even on them. The same people vote for them every election. Congressmen run every 2 years. Here in Chicago, are you familiar with Bobby Rush? Anyone?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so people voted for Bobby Rush for 30 years. Bobby Rush, and I mean, some people may take offense to this. I would guess that his IQ is around room temperature. But they voted for this guy for 30 years. And you got another Danny Davis here. And we just have a lot of people the sister that comes out of California, what's her name? She's a congressman out of the Los Angeles area. Maxine Waters. I mean, come on. How can we get respect with people like that representing us? It's absurd that we even think and continue to support people like that. And we're not going to get reparations unless we're organized to do so. Okay? Democrats don't have to give us anything because we have never charged them for our support. They can't win an election without us, but we continue to give them our support without getting anything in return. So why would they ever offer anything for it? There's also, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? We're operating like we don't understand what's really going on here, And until we get some scruples in place, then we're going to continue to be used. I'll land my plane.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me answer the question real quick about what my priority list is. Definitely reparations, for foundational Black Americans. Reparations for foundational Black Americans, and in a package, and the main part of the package is cash payments. Okay. Now, with that, I will also add there needs to be a black bill that addresses I don't know if you can say hate crimes on TikTok, but we need something that addresses that. Okay. Because we are the number one people who are victims of that in this country, and it goes underreported and it goes underpunished. Okay. Pretty much. Number three, there also does need to be something about police, as far as, well, actually, let me go to the economic thing, because if I'm going from top to bottom, I'm gonna go back to the economic thing. There needs to be, as far as the schooling is concerned, if people want to be put into homeschool, if as far as that, what we need, we don't have that. Somebody said we have that, we don't have it. What we need is, we need more grants and state and government funded programs that teaches trades and teaches skills in the high schools that can lead to credits in junior college or can lead to a skill, a certified skill that you can take in the workforce after leaving high school. Because what happens too often is you have black people who don't have really any ability to do anything that they can leverage in the job market after high school. So they got to go to college, and then college don't work out for them. Or if they do, they still might not get a job or whatever the case is. So that needs to be implemented back in there. Also, something needs to happen definitely as far as there needs to be an oversight in punishment and RICO charges for gangs, YT supremacist gangs and stuff that are in the police department, that are in police, because we have that a lot. Okay, so that, I guess that could also go into the hate crime bill. But you said 5 things, even though my main thing would be 3 things. But if you said 5 things, I would say that. Um, yeah, we got trolls in chat room. It's okay. My fourth thing, I would definitely say we definitely need to do something as far as the health is concerned. Now, when they talk about black mortality rates, that's a big thing that I talk about on my YouTube channel, right? I talk about that on my YouTube channel a lot. The issue with black women and their mortality is not because black women are inherently less fertile or black people are inherently more disease ridden. It's because there are certain conditions that lead to certain diseases that exist within the black community that nothing gets taken care of. For instance, the water in Flint, Michigan. You know what I'm saying? So these are corrective things that need to be done within. You can put them all in the reparations package. As long as you put the cash in there, you can call it what you want to call it. You can put them all in there. You can spread them all out. Whatever. These are the things that need to be done. So those would be my things that I would definitely need the politician to say yes to.
Um,
Okay. Does everyone want to go around and just give out their top five? Because I want to hear from, not to take over your panel or anything, but I want to hear from everybody, and then I guess I would go last to say like, what are my
Yo,
top five?
yeah, we'll do that. BX, you'll go, and then we'll get to, because there's some people who haven't even spoken yet, so we'll get to that.
I like to speak
Fantastic.
for education if I could.
But we'll get let BX answer if she wants to, and then we'll get to some of the other people who haven't spoken. But just think about your answers. Hold on to it. Put a pin in it.
Hmm. So, a foundational Black American. So let me just say this, and I'm gonna keep it very guarded because I don't know who's who might take the idea, run with it, and pander to us, and then voila, we have another fake politician. So first of all, we have to correct the verbiage, right? Trump pretty much cleared up who the 14th Amendment was for. So we want to stick in line with the lineage. I need whatever they do, which I prefer an anti-hate crime bill. Um, and then for us to be considered a protected class, right? We're a protected class. I mean, you cannot come and just unalive us without facing some serious repercussions. But we need the verbiage to be right. We are not minorities. We are not people of color. We are not BIPOC. We're foundational Black Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So I would start there, and then I want more business funding, and I want us to remember the elders. So I can piggyback off with, say, me and Afro and Thomas, because Thomas is FBA too, even if he doesn't identify as it. You brought up education that will cover the youth and them learning trades and stuff. I want to remind us about our elders who are here, really here being spoken about. There's been studies showing that they feel discriminated against in things like healthcare. They also live in food deserts, and also they're assistant living. Oh, and their rent. So if they don't have a pension, right, but they get a form of SSDI, right, disability when they retire or whatever, when they reach a certain age. Sorry, 65 and over. They're paying basically the whole checkout. So there has to be some assistance specifically for them. They may not want cash or no land. City people may not want land. They're older. They raise their children. They want to sit in wherever they live and be happy. My parents personally want someone to travel and the other one don't. You know, he's happy with his newspaper. As long as he has his print media, he's fine. So we have to take into consideration what the elders want, and we have to implement things like mobile food gardens, food trucks that will bring fresh produce and stuff. for the elders. I think that's about all that I'm willing to say. Reparations is not just cash, but it will be cash.
Mhm.
But we have to think about the elders and the youth, and then us. I think we want like business funding. I personally want to apothecary, right? Because in New York, the Latinos they dominate the botanicas, but there are Black spiritual people here, and we call them things like apothecaries and stuff like that. So funding. I'm also a journalist who wants to get into film and things like that, and so I want media funding, like to open a media or communications type of firm. And that's the basics for me. So I want a politician who can make some of those things uh rattle and shake, so to
Yeah,
speak.
that's fair.
Hmm.
Also, I will say the way we should look at politicians going forward, we should look at politicians like we're an employer looking for an employee. Okay, an employee can have a really crisp resume. They can do really well in an interview, but the thing is that you're also looking for someone who has work experience. Yeah, just because you got a great resume, or I mean, the resume would showcase a work experience, but just because you do great on your interview doesn't mean you have the work experience required to do the job. So, what we would need is we would need to go through the paperwork and we would need to see some checkpoints of you doing certain things for us to believe that you're going to do what's on this job application. We need to see some experience before you get the job. You know what I'm saying? Because now any politician can be all like, hey, I'll support it. You know what I'm saying? But we need to see your track record prior to saying that you support it, or else I'm just not going to believe it because anybody can just say that. So if a politician comes up and a politician has a decent track record of doing some of these things or advocating for these things, and then they come up and they say, this is my staunch belief, and I have the track record to prove that this is my belief, this is what I've been pushing for and fighting for, or whatever the case is, then you got my support. But I'm not just going to support somebody because they regurgitate what I said I wanted. You know what I'm saying? So let's not be manipulated with that. We also got to make sure that we pay attention to these politicians' track record.